Okay, yeah. Let's switch up the vibe in here.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we are discussing Severance Episode 8, What's for Dinner? Before we jump into the video, I just want to wish everybody a happy holiday. I am sure that by the time this video comes out, it will be past all of those celebrations, but it is 2 days before Christmas as I am sitting down at Lamppost Coffee in Round Rock, Texas, writing these very first words. Actually, I got in a 30-minute conversation with a man who is either a millionaire or homeless and was giving me advice on real estate. Anyway, thankful to all of you who sit and listen to me during these busy days. I hope it makes your drive to work easier and all of your daily tasks quicker. I hope that January is going to be the start of some incredible growth for me and my little channel here, and none of that would be possible without all of you. So thank you so very much. Also, over the course of the week that I've been studying this episode, I have gotten sick. So if I sound a little bit different, that is why. But ultimately, What's for Dinner starts with Irving showing his beautiful face and us learning that his love for radar isn't about the beep boops, it's about the snoot boops. The day shows Irving sitting in contemplation of The Words in His Hands, a novel written centuries ago by Marcus Aurelius, titled The Emperor's Handbook.
Tell me again, Maximus, why are we here? Oh, yeah.
That guy. The book isn't too long, so I spent an Audible credit on the 5 hours of story time and learned it is truly just the private diary and notes of the great emperor who found many moments to reflect on morality and the universe at large. It has a great deal of Stoic philosophy, though all I really want to highlight here is how it could relate to Keir Egan's private notes. This is simply a theory right now, but I believe that Keir Egan likely did what Marcus Aurelius did and filled a book with his notes of life and love and what it means to be good. Then people turned those words into something more after his death. I think that exact thing happened to Keir Egan, and Lumen has greatly bastardized what a single man wrote in the privacy of his own mind. If Keir Egan was good or not, we still don't know, but I think this is why we are actively watching Irving read the private thoughts of Marcus Aurelius, while his innie was deeply and intimately versed in the private thoughts of Keir Egan. In this early scene, we can see these are his painting pants because the next scene shows the world a little bit darker. I'm assuming this was something of a sunset routine. Also, it does feel like it could have been morning as well. When I first watched this was morning, and then I realized it, probably wasn't, right? I think that it's meant to be ambiguous. It is his morning. It is Irving's morning. He is finally waking up, and I'm imagining him getting off of work, walking the dog, reading, and then calling it quits when the dog finally gives him the look, and then he can drink some coffee and find his happy place. We see the apartments that he lives at are called Leonore Lake, showing us more property in this town owned by the Egan family, as Leonore Egan was the 7th CEO of Lumen. The fact that he is living in an apartment while Mark is living in a duplex is interesting to me. I spoke a good few reviews ago about the uncertainty you could have in relation to pay in this situation. In theory, you could be the CEO of Lumen on the inside, doing absolutely god-tier work to make the company profitable, but outside, you may be living in an apartment. You would never even be informed of your promotion unless they wanted to, which why would they? Mark became department lead, and we never see him ever informed. He just knows that his badge was replaced, likely feeling a little less worn. They would never have to pay you more, right? Like maybe they would do a 2% raise a year so that you don't ask questions, and that's only if they wanted to. They could equally say that your innie has been sleeping all day, and this year you just don't get a raise, and what are you going to do? Speaking of sleeping, him drinking coffee in the evening is likely keeping him up longer into the night as well. Innie Irving dozing is the price. In our reality, we do something called revenge bedtime procrastination, and I think that is what they are showing here. Basically, staying up late in order to reclaim your day. I believe, if you just spend the whole day working and then you get off and then you just go to bed, that sucks. That feels bad. That's one of the downsides of capitalism. I believe that is what Irving is doing here. He quite literally doesn't have a day, and maybe it's the part of the year where it gets dark super early. He is staying up late to tap into some hidden parts of his brain, procrastinating sleep for the sole reason that he wants to feel like he did something today. But let's also talk about this image that he continues to paint over and over. This is the elevator to the testing floor, aligned here like I did it in the intro, meaning that Irving, ahead of the events that we see in season 1, has seen this image while on the inside. Any Irving has been to the testing floor, and we don't know why. We can speculate a good million different reasons on how or why, but really we just know that he has. And now, Audi Irving is being inspired for a reason that we don't know to draw this thing. More than that, he is obsessed with it. Just as Mark makes the tree where Gemma died, while in Wellness and Helly has this skill for drawing out of nowhere, they are telling us that Severance is not as well defined as they tell us. Some things are merging through, and Audi Irving being able to pull from any Irving's experience to create this image is a red flag for Lumen. This can't happen, and I wonder if they even know that it is. Miss Cobell, studying Mark and Miss Casey all throughout this season, felt like she was trying to understand why this was happening, but even after she was right about everything, nobody really takes her seriously. No spoilers, of course, but yeah, I don't know if Lumen is aware of this connection, though the other possibility is that they simply don't care. It's not that impactful that the innies and outies are inspired by what could be the traumatic experiences of the other. It's telling us that any Irving did this, that any Irving experienced the trauma of whatever this testing floor is, and that is why it is cemented in his brain, even if they wipe it clean. One last note about this opening scene, it confirms what the black ooze any Irving has been cursed with seeing all season actually is, and that is the Audi's paint. Again, showing us this subconscious connection between the two minds. We see Helly racing against the clock while the team has their doubts.
I just wonder if it might be helpful for us to stand behind her and perhaps chant her name.
We also see Mr. Milchick and Miss Cobell staring at Helly through the computer monitor camera here, both of them clearly stressed.
She'll make it. Let's prep for when she makes it.
It's not clear what would happen if they don't make the quarterly refinement, but it's not good, whatever it is. Not good for the team and not good for the managers. They talked before about not finishing files because they expire, but this feels like this file really needed to be finished. Mr. Milchick then questions why Miss Cobell wants to schedule Mark for another visit to Wellness, and Miss Cobell says this.
I know that this has been a trying quarter. Mr. Grainer sits with Kier now, and I imagine they're both very satisfied with you.
Which is just such a wild thing to outright say. It's proof of this godlike status that they hold Kier to. It's the best reason we know that she has been drinking the Kool-Aid since she was a little girl, learning about the Egan family since recess was cool. The entire organization feels like a pseudoscience religious group mixed with philosophy that may have started with good intentions but now just serves their pocket, or worse. How many religions have existed without forming some kind of plan to spread that belief system to the entire world? And of course, we know that that is coming. Buddhism may be the only thing that comes to mind, and if you told me that Buddha himself also considered the Machiavellian logic of enlightening the entire world through force, I would believe it. Like, sure, like if you have the plan for enlightenment, spread it. That's a better human, right? In fact, I think that that is what Lumen and the Egans intend to do. I believe that that's what they think that they have. They consider all of their workers part of the family, and they want to help their family obtain the Kier Egan taming of tempers, and we know that that led him to viewing the entire world as his appendage. I think Lumen offers enlightenment to the world, or they think they do.
If the Egan philosophy is illumination above all.
Illumination beyond all, but yes.
But let's also not forget my favorite topic, Mr. Milchick. Watch this scene. We can see his eye twitch while staring at Miss Cobell. She is a stone wall. Her expression almost lifeless as she stares into his soul. It feels like he is afraid either of her or what she is suggesting with Mark and Miss Casey, or that she is seeing him for who he really is. A double agent hell-bent on destroying the company from... I'm just kidding. Unless... Before season 2 comes out, I want to do a complete confirmation biased, probably video about Mr. Milchick being the betrayer. Possibly. But right now, I just want to highlight this from a man who we have only ever seen as this composed and similarly machine-like person. Him twitching feels like a pretty big deal. And yeah, it just seems like Miss Cobell is dogging him here.
Do it. She did it.
Oh my goodness.
We see this animated scene of Kier flying through the mountains and talking to Heli R about how much her work honors him, how he loves her for her work, and in an environment in which you don't hear "I love you," this could mean quite a bit. It's a pretty big deal to a new member of the workforce who has never known love at all. In fact, I'd wager that all of them felt pretty loved. My cat, thank you. In fact, I'd wager that all of them felt pretty loved by this generic insert name here voice recording.
In refining your macro data file, you have brought glory to this company and to me, Kier Egan.
So it's on now.
We see Miss Cobell and Mark laughing uncomfortably for a good number of seconds here. Too long is how long they were laughing. They talk about how stressful this quarter was, and we get this screen here. These might be 4-digit numbers, but I can't really tell. If this page looks like any document that anybody has ever seen before, please let me know, but I don't really have anything to add about it.
Have you decided who you want to stay for the waffle party?
I was thinking Dylan.
Mark insists that Dylan should be waffled, and then she sends him for his end of quarter wellness check.
Mark?
Miss Casey.
This is when we learn that Miss Casey will be retired, and she learned this right before the meeting. It is insidious, and of course we know this is more of Miss Cobell's observation than anything else. She studies this scene knowing that Miss Casey is Mark's late wife Gemma, and the results of this study are curious.
You know it's good, right? That they don't remember each other. It means the chips work.
It seems like she is not satisfied with that answer, but who really knows what she is thinking here? Before the meeting ends, Mark tries to explain a few times that he did not mean for her to get fired, but ultimately, it's for naught.
Let me talk to somebody.
Because we're people. Even with what little they gave us, these are our lives. No one gets to just turn you off.
Miss Casey drops her walls just a little bit and explains that her life has only been 107 hours long. Her favorite part of that being the time that she spent with him the other day in MDR. Mark says that despite the odd conditions of their existence, they are still people and that there must be something they can do. But as far as we know, there is not. Despite their recent search for more freedom, they are still captives to the system, and Miss Casey retiring is a good reminder of that. This is when we hear Mr. Milchick say that it's good that they don't know each other, which confirms that he also knows Miss Casey is Mark's late wife Gemma. It's wild. Why does everybody know? It feels like the next level of this mystery is going to be pretty apparent to everyone working at Lumen, and something that has been going on openly for some time now. Whether that be some Lazarus project or cloning or regrowing of people, any number of things to explain this current situation. Whatever it is, it's known about, but there is some part of it that is giving Miss Cobell some kind of pause as she has now started this battle, this just like reintegration that was never supposed to be possible, and then it was proven to be possible. It feels like she is on to the next thing where the minds are merging. They are knowing more. Like Miss Casey did enjoy the time spent, and maybe Miss Cobell is reading that as a sign that there could be more. Also, she watched Mark recreate the tree where his dead wife died, and yeah, it just feels like she's close.
Take her back, Tom. To the testing floor, please.
This is the first time we learn of this mythical lower level, and the scene that follows is pretty heartbreaking. This is the death of this version of Miss Casey, and whatever happens on this floor is no joke.
Do you know if I'm happy up there?
Of course. You do all sorts of wonderful things.
Which also confirms that they're lying to Miss Casey about her entire life. She is most certainly one of the people that does not get to leave Lumen, and the testing floor may be internal Lumen housing or simply another severed floor where your mind becomes another version of yourself, or any number of things. But they tell her and anybody else stuck there forever that they're going home at the end of a long day. In fact, she believes that she is a part-time worker, which means there is no difference from the perspective of the innies about which is happening, like which is about to happen to them. If the main elevator that takes them home suddenly starts going down when they press the button to leave, their existence would still only consist of them waking up when the elevator reached their floor, and they'd have no idea, and they still, like, from their perspective, they only assume that they are going home each day. And I think we know now that they should not be assuming that.
A weekend just happened.
Yeah.
I don't even feel like I left.
Yeah, that's how nights and weekends feel here.
They don't show Mr. Milchick's face during the scene, and I found that kind of odd. It's almost like they're hiding his disdain for the action that must be carried out, but again, confirmation bias is still full in effect here. It could also be to make him less human, like it's policy carrying out this action, not the individual. He's just, the body that's there enforcing it.
They fired her. What? Yeah, she just found out.
Well, can we help her? Is there anything we can do?
I don't know.
They don't know what they can do for her, but before more can be said, Mr. Milchick rolls in the coveted egg cart.
Ordered the pre-waffle party egg bar social for everyone.
Yes!
Dylan is then given a gift, but we do not see it until later.
Open it.
Yeah, I bet you'd like that, fuckers, but my prize, my eyes.
The party goes off without any more biting or any interruption like that, but we get some nice bonding between the team. Helly makes sure that Dylan is okay with staying behind, and he agrees by saying this.
What we're doing tonight is just the first step.
That's when we see Miss Cobell getting caught.
Helly R. attempted suicide 3 weeks ago.
Yes, she did.
It is a tense moment as everything comes crumbling down around Miss Cobell's head without a moment to defend herself.
Fuck off, Natalie! Is the board even there?
Yes.
And then, boom, she is gone and the board is real. Or is it? The reason I continue to question the validity is because the system of managers and higher-ups answering to a faceless, often soundless box is just too good to be true. Much like the security room, I believe it is enough for the workers to simply believe the board is real or the security room is watching, while everyone is actually just following scripts and protocol and has been doing this long established routine that was maybe once created by an authority that was monitoring them, but now no longer does. I also think the board could be other versions of the severed workers. Imagine another Mark only brought online when they need someone to sit and listen to the severed floor management speak, or the security room has an issue. His entire existence could be reading SOPs and thick books about how to make companies operate efficiently. I think Occam's razor tells us the board is real, but there are a few ways they could write this to make the corporate hierarchy just a little bit more severance. The term, the board, for instance, the break room being what it is, whenever I hear the board, I'm literally imagining a long table filled with important suits. I think that's a board, right? But what if it was a bulletin board or something posted on the wall? What if it was a board filled with severed heads in glass jars who only exist to debate policy for the company? The board having a singular male voice is interesting, and I could have sworn when I first heard this, Mark S. was the voice and person speaking that came to mind, but I just don't know.
Yes.
But regardless of if the board is real or not, Miss Cobell is hearing a voice of authority that she believes tell her and confirm what Natalie has just said. She is fired.
I can explain everything to the board tonight, please.
The board has concluded the call.
Back at the party, we are seeing Irving reflecting on the handbook. The pages are razor thin and edges adorned in gold, the Christian Bible being the first thing that comes to mind, and I have little doubt that that is the comparison that they hoped for as I dive into the text at hand. These words are gospel, but much like the original authors of each Bible book, nobody could have ever known what the collective text would have become in terms of the Christian Bible. Like I've said once or twice before, I have no doubt that the same thing happened to Keir Egan, or perhaps Marcus Aurelius now too. As a little bit of a rabbit hole point here, I did some research into the creation of the King James Bible. After all, we have a great number of different translations of the good word, but how did a single version come to exist? There's plenty of them. The New American Bible also comes to mind, but King James, I dove into this little rabbit hole. And the truth of it is that King James I had this Bible made because the Geneva Bible, which was much more popular at the time, had a lot of anti-royalty talk in it, among other reasons, I'm sure. But let's not overlook a king wanting to change the very religious text that connects us to faith because it did not align with his personal beliefs. That is thinly veiled villainy and abhorrent control. If Keir Egan's original words were altered or translated again and again over the years to create this cult-like business religion that we now know, I could imagine each Egan updating the handbook for their own gains in a similar way that King James did. The passage that Irving reads claims that there is no higher love than your work for Kier, but he is reading this directly after knowing and losing love recently. Bert was his love, and hearing a video game Kier tell Helly earlier that he loved her just didn't feel the same as it once did. So he reflected, he went to console the good word, and him reading this passage confirmed it. The love that he felt for Bert was not the love that he felt for Kier, and the love that he felt for Bert was much stronger, much more real. Meaning the text is wrong, and if the text is wrong, the whole book could be called into question. Hence, the little snack that he left for the next person reading in these razor-thin pages. But let's not forget to inspect the pages. While a good bit of this is blurry, I have been able to make out a good deal of it. It's kind of wild. Some help the theory, some were just meant to be vague religious text. We see a ton of references to the Bible, like just the Christian Bible. The Old Testament, the New Testament named directly. The phrase divine goodliness found nowhere felt like a pretty unique phrase, so if anyone spent time to decode all of this blurry text, using this phrase should have produced me a positive result. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like anybody has. Maybe that is a good sign that it really is pointless to consider this further, but that's never stopped me before. So I signed up for the Severance Wiki team and added a whole slew of the readable parts of this text that weren't previously accounted for. And at the end of my study of blurry text, I know that this entire section is about labor, goodliness, and love, and their interconnected workplace culture that is the heart of workplace and productivity in Kier's philosophy. There is a good dozen references to Paul and his work in the New Testament, though I have not been able to take any of the legible text and find it online. Whatever is written here looks to be the original text with Bible verses quoted directly, but the Bible being this quoted in an employee compliance handbook is just bonkers. The main text reads like it was Kier trying to understand how to be content with your work and equating that to love as a child. It is quite interesting, and it may be outside of the scope of this video, but you can read the entirety of the text that we know and can see over on the wiki page that is linked in the description. He mentions the three pillars of the old workforce are avarice, competition, and shrewdity. How he wishes to change that by taming the tempers in himself and showing others how to do the same in order to create a workforce that is in love with their work. But the love he mentions, what he's actually saying is being content in your work, that you will work and never feel the stress of it because of your love or contentness. He also talks in length about his friend who was a good worker but an amputee, how Kier covered wood sticks with chicken skin so that they could pretend that he wasn't crippled, so that his boss that would beat them would not beat them and then send the person to a child's prison. That is when I realized that they were talking about children, and Kier writing this, or was living in this event as a child and not just, an 18-year-old joining the workforce. He was a child laborer. Perhaps death is the crippled arm of a woman that they want loving their work, and whatever plot they continue in the background, this tells us that death isn't the end of your joyous work like the broken arm of his friend once was. They will pull over the chicken skin over dead branches and insert the implant into a new appendage so that they can continue their greatest love, the work.
The goats lay the eggs.
Oh my God, you got it.
They joke in private and then discuss the worry that they share about the plan, how things will go if they get caught, and Helly offers this.
They left us unattended and thought we'd be too dumb to notice.
Mark worries that they won't wake up and that he will lose the life that they have together without saying it as plainly.
Or we're all assholes out there.
Well, that's a given for me.
They flirt a little bit here, which I love. Mark and Helly signed, sealed, shipped.
Okay, refiners. I need to see about a management issue, and this party is over.
Mr. Milchick is quite stressed and rushes out, leaving the food behind for everybody. This does feel like he was blindsided about the firing, and I'm not sure that he actually said something to Natalie about Helly and everything else that he could have after he was told to keep quiet about it, but I think you know where my heart stands.
Keycard.
It is a tense moment with few words, but Miss Cobell leaves, and that is that.
You don't mess with any other departments. It's just us three.
I know.
The team plot in the storage closet and get themselves ready for the big event. Find someone you can trust, despite how hard that could be, despite how much you want to investigate your own lives. you need to find someone and tell them everything going on down here, mainly the torture, mainly that they want to be free. Mark reveals the UUR, and Dylan knows it so intimately that he helps Mark finish the quote.
Our job is to taste free air. Your so-called boss may own the clock that taunts you from the wall. But
my friends, the hour is yours. Page 197 slaps.
Mark and Helly then have another little moment.
We're about to meet our spouses.
Maybe.
Maybe it's each other.
Which again, love, love, love. They kiss goodbye, leaving Dylan alone for the waffle party, and all systems are go.
I'll be out in a minute.
We see the Lumen building being transformed on the outside, the welcome mat literally being rolled out while Dylan takes his stroll to the Perpetuity wing.
Rubber to hell! Felt that fucking fire until she fucking died!
This rage, this targeted, woeful malice directed at the soul of her co-worker Natalie, it's not very Kier money. She wants her soul to burn, her fake smile to fade. It's a lot of untamed tempers. Okay, Miss Cobell, reel it in. We see Dylan take the head of the co-founder and on the bed lays a cat of nine tails with the name of each core principle defining the chord. It was the first little hint that we were headed for some kinky goodness, and then we see it. The four tempers, as noted by the painting of the same name, but in live action, performed by lingerie-laced lassies. I love dance, but in no degree could I ever possibly tell you the importance of their movements. If somebody can, I haven't found much online about it, but I'm sure that these movements were choreographed for a reason, and I want to hear that story from someone who knows what they are talking about. Also, in my research, I found this. It details how Dan Erickson, BF and writer of Severance, intends for this scene to be viewed. Dylan was meant to put on the head of the founder and have fornication, copulation, boners with the four tempers. Apparently, this was obvious to some, perhaps most, but not me. I really thought it was about taming the tempers, about like overcoming the core base instinct to smash and reproduce by whipping them or yourself if they tried to seduce you. That was, to me, the most artistic interpretation behind the cat of nine tails and why this was happening at all. It was actually just about giving the person who worked the hardest that quarter a license to fuck. Regardless of who you had on the outside, you could smash, and you wouldn't know if you were cheating or not. It also makes me revisit the pregnant woman who realized that she was pregnant at work. It's kind of disgusting, most importantly because these people cannot consent to their bodies being used in that way. But perhaps that's a video for another time. I really just can't believe Dylan was meant to wear the founder's head and smash some supermodels, but instead he used his time to save the day. To me, that's taming some tempers type training. I would fold immediately. This sexy gesture walks in and I forget that my team exists. All right, she starts dancing towards me. I have a cat of nine tails with a bunch of words on it. While all of that is going on, we also see Miss Cobell losing her cool at home, ripping apart her Kier-loving home. We can see these two faces, maybe like emotional markers, so you can hold up orange or green to signal how you're feeling in maybe like a more youthful setting. Maybe the lollipops and individual wrapped blue things could relate to the spicy candy that Irving talked about before.
I bet it's a loyalty test. Remember the spicy candy?
This looks like a paper fortune teller toy that you would make in middle school. If I had to guess, it has like each principle written on the inside, though I don't know if the numbers, number of sides and number of principles actually add up here. I think this is some kind of present wrapped in handwriting paper. I can see cheer and wit here, so I'm guessing the core principles defined like a lifetime of Christmases as well. We see this picture here, likely from her time in the Myrtle Egan school. The way they position the girls is really interesting to me. I'm assuming this has some meaning because why in the world would you make them stand like this? It could be the ladder here. Like, see what I'm saying here? It shows these gears, the ladders, verve, the quote about more perfect for the struggle, which we heard in earlier episodes. The thing that they are climbing the ladder toward is interesting as well. It looks like a lighthouse for a few frames that we can actually see it. The season 2 teaser, little spoiler here, did have some stuff going on with that, but let's just keep that in the back of your mind. The goal is climbing, whether it's the corporate ladder or, the arts and crafts team. It is about struggling to become more perfect, where you will then sit above all of the others and spectate or maybe issue orders with the information that you can gain from that higher vantage point. I don't really know. Wit has a line about not letting weakness live in your veins. This is also kind of a scary blank face with the head cut open, letting all of the light beams that exist in our heads in real life shoot out into the abyss. Nimbleness is hard to make out, but on screen now are the most that I think that we can see of it. Cheer is the only one that remains on the wall, but for the life of me, I can't see this final word in not the tootie or treaty or today. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Humility is very hard to see, but it does read tame thy tempers at the top and then shows a goat being a goat. Benevolence is hidden completely here, but in episode 6 we see that it's the head of Kier saying, "You are my mouth," likely what Bert says in episode 4 about him living through them. Probity shows a little stick figure in the phrase "we must we must be cut to heal." Something like that does come up in the season 2 teaser that we get a few days ago, but again, we'll talk about that in other videos. The only thing not shown in this episode while she's having this kind of freak out is wiles or wills. I don't know. This isn't a word I have ever heard outside of Severance. I think it's wiles. Yeah, wiles. Take everything I say with a grain of salt there. We see her destroying the shrine like King Kong and then finally collapsing to the ground, holding the medical bracelet that says Charlotte Cobell and what I believe are breathing tubes. We don't know who this person is. I think the most straightforward answer is Harmony Cobell's mother, but some theories point to this being Harmony before she was named Harmony, though it would make her 80 years old. It's either saying that she wants her mother here or she misses who she was before the Egans got a hold of her. Each of those I think have their own merit there. The dancing ends. Dylan is then on his way to Wreck Shop, and we see Mark invites Miss Cobell to Devon's party on Devon's behalf, and we get this line here.
I get it. I mean, it's not a funeral. So.
Which is just such a terrific piece of tiny little writing. She is destroyed about being fired from her company that she loves and has dedicated her life to. But it's still not as bad as an innie being fired or retiring. It's not a funeral. She gets to live afterwards.
And that way I could leave if I'm uncomfortable or afraid.
She changes her mind and says that she will go after all, driving herself, and then we return to Audi, Irving, and Radar. More coffee after a day not spent alive, and the party starts without a hitch.
The elusive Mark.
Oh, never thought of myself as elusive.
Welcome.
Now, I have seen so many theories about this line. It is an odd line. Mark really isn't all that elusive, but based on the finale and how Rickon talks about the kelp at the birthing suite, I think he calls Mark elusive because he's trying to be Mark's friend, and it's not happening. Or maybe it's more than a friend thing because Devon said that when Gemma was alive, they were all super close. Maybe it's about his work. Like, this party shows us the world of Rickon supporters. Mark is elusive because Rickon wants Mark to see what he has to offer in a way that his followers do. And it's just not happening, which, to be honest, feels bad. I love what I do here. I love talking to y'all. I love this moment right now where I get to just record audio and say anything I want. I get to express myself in a way that few people outside of my little clique here understand. It's hard when you have a friend that just isn't seeing your vision, but you have people online and around you that love and support you like family. It's a weird feeling. It's a weird dynamic. I have an elusive Mark. Sometimes I question if he is a friend at all, and that is kind of the feeling that I'm getting between these two right now.
Mark, you've got your copy to follow along, yes?
Oh, I think I left it by my bed.
Oh.
And this is exactly why. This is Rickon's moment, his big day. And now he has to make accommodations for his brother-in-law that clearly doesn't care to make an effort. This would bother Stoics.
Rebecca. She may be willing to share her copy with you.
Rickon goes to ask Rebecca if she will share her copy with Mark, and then we get this line here.
Your brother.
Alone at last.
Gross.
I love this. As a big fan of incest, I love this. It's just so casually funny, and it continues this true sibling deadpan humor that I adore, but incest is no laughing matter. which is a good time to remind you that this episode also shows us this line about Keir Egan's mother and father having a close biological connection. And yeah, it's just a little strange.
Good wife and mother and stuff.
Yeah, all glory unto Devon.
As Mark and Devon part ways, Mrs. Selvig does her thing.
Watch for leakies, Mark. Hi, Mrs. Selvig.
Audi Irving paints, Dylan enters security, and then Mrs. Selvig bonds with Mark just a little bit longer.
Glad you're here now. Work's just work, right?
Inside the security room, we can see Dylan securing the door and then looking at these screens here. The one on the right we've seen and discussed last episode, but the one on the left is just a little too blurry to make anything meaningful out with. It's then revealed that Dylan had a head cube piece requested as his prize, but it was the entire team standing together instead of just himself. In this brief scene, we learn that it is 6:32, meaning an hour and a half past closing time. We can also see all of these locked books, this personal coffee machine, this coffee cup left on the desk makes it look like this was lived in to some degree, like it wasn't completely just for show. Mr. Grainer likely operated from here before things went south, but we never really see an office or where he operates from. We get a whole list of names while Dylan is searching. All of these are severed, assumingly, but some of them are grayed out. It is a tiny thing that I am only noticing as I'm writing this in this dedicated review, but it could mean that these are the ones currently active or in the building, while the ones that are grayed out are the ones that have left work for the day or no longer active. At 6:32 in the afternoon, this feels like it could be a subtle reveal showing us that a lot of the workers are still on the clock more than anything else. We see that Dylan gets to work. We see this screen here with a lot of programming talk on it. I'm not reading anything really here that I want to share. We also see these implant icons with some also being grayed out. We also see this screen for Helly R. A lot of this I'm leaving on screen for you to speculate about because I have to make dinner eventually. I'm seeing feeds 5 and 6 with EEG right next to it. EEG in real life stands for electroencephalogram, which is this image you're likely familiar with. This could be revealing some of the utility that comes with the implants and the information that the implants gather here. Also, the term feeds, packet time, duration, sequence, uplink, all of this feels like they have direct access to the stream of the person's thoughts via implants, regardless of if they are innies or not. Helly R's for some reason is turned on while she is actively not in any. This screen also shows geoparameter and transition history. Also, Bert G's implant is visible and still lit up. It's interesting, and I don't really have much more to add about the icon dynamic here, but Dylan finishes getting his friends ready for their big escape, and Mark finds himself in this situation.
And I heard you say to Devon something about a life change.
While Mark spills all of the tea to the wrong person, Dylan shows us some more of these system functions. Some of these we pulled from the blurry text of the system handbook last episode, but these are some new ones. I think Beehive interests me the most, but God only knows what Glasgow could mean as well.
Away from them, Mom.
Before the switches are flipped by the man with a strength of 2, we get this line from Miss Cobell. I really don't know why. It seems like she is truly impacted, like her firing is real and final, and she knows that. She gave her life to the company and the project that she believed in, and then a pretty fake smile told her that she was fired without any way to defend herself, and then just that was the end of it. Even the board that she worked for at the will of just disregarded her. I believe that she is really hurt, and she wishes to hurt Lumen by driving away one of their core people, Mark S. But with that, we come to the end of the video. Please let me know if there was anything that I missed or left out, or you want to talk about more in the comments below. Episode 8 was such a great build-up for the finale, and the switch is flipped. The finale is next. Before season 2 comes out, I will have the finale breakdown ready to go, with hopefully enough time to have some dedicated theory videos and character studies as well. If you would like to support this content going into the new season, please consider becoming a member here on YouTube or over on Patreon. Big shout out to Ben Stiller, as always, my Northern Star. Also, a name that you may remember if you've been here for any amount of year, Michael Link. This man has supported me over the years, and while I don't do these shoutouts that much anymore, this channel should never forget him as a true patron of Hack's Dogma. Thank you, friend. Hope you are well. Much love, everybody, and I cannot wait to talk to you all again soon.